I learned very quickly that split testing and multivariate testing and creating an environment of testing is paramount to success online. And you kind of made that linear equation when we were talking about little tweaks, where we're saying, yeah, if you're driving people from an ad, and let's just take a look at the ad. You have a headline, you have a title, you have a description, you have a call to action, you have a destination URL. That's 5 things that you can test right out of the gate just with a paid ad. And oftentimes it's those very little improvements in CPCs or conversion rates along that like linear purchase equation that results in more visits, more sales, reduced cost per sale, etc. Bunch of wins. I've seen conversion rates go from 2 to 12% in 1 year by doing this A versus B versus C method.
If you want to build a legitimate, profitable online business without shiny objects, without the hypey gimmicks, and without the stress and overwhelm, if you want to make more money without having to be present online all day, every day, pumping out content that nobody sees and hustling DMs to generate leads and sales, then this is the place for you. Welcome to the Digital Trailblazer Podcast, your online business university, where you'll learn how ordinary people start from ground zero with no influence, no email list or audience to sell to, and no business or marketing experience, and go from working 9-to-5 jobs to building successful 6- and 7-figure online businesses and all the steps in between. Learn the strategies that worked and what didn't. Learn the mistakes that they made and how to avoid them, and then learn their plans for scaling their businesses and taking things to the next level. All so that you can build your business faster and easier and make more money without sacrificing the things that are important to you in your life. I'm your host, Leah Ray Getz, and with me is my husband, Todd. Now, let's get to it with today's guest. Hey, Digital Trailblazers, welcome. It's Leah Ray Getz, and today I have with me Mike Hoyles. Mike, go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience.
Hi there, my name is Mike Hoyles. I have been in digital marketing and e-commerce for almost 25 years now, working with some pretty major brands over the last 20-ish years of my career, and now I am independent.
So when did you make the decision to go do this on your own?
I left my what I guess I call my 9-to-5 in 2018. It was somewhat of an evolution versus a traditional business plan with an end goal in mind at the start. I started my business as a high-ticket consultancy after a lengthy career, half on the agency side, half on the client side or in-house side. And what happened is I held some leadership roles within the travel sector, airline and hotel, and my work-life balance was terrible. I had over 100 flights a year for 6 consecutive years or so, and I missed out on time you just can't get back with family. So I decided to come home and I went independent. It's a little bit of a background story, but the evolution part is when COVID came rolling around, it turned into gasoline for e-commerce. I had spent 15 years jumping up and down in a clown suit, telling a variety of mainstream brands that they needed to up their e-commerce game. So many brands just had a fraction of their inventory available on their website. They felt they had enough of a retail presence to make up for it. And then 2020 comes in roaring, through with lockdowns, rolling restrictions, staff shortages. Suddenly those back burner digital projects and e-commerce project catapulted to the front, and my inbox exploded, where I found myself answering the same questions over and over again. So eventually I just turned on my camera. I answered broad questions via video. Here are the top 5 CMS tools, the pros and cons of each. And that ad hoc library received so much traction that I re-recorded it professionally. I have over 30 hours of actionable information and hundreds of registrants in dozens of countries all over the world.
So are you an agency model where there's done for you? Is it coaching, combination? What does that look like?
So it started with the DIY library, just like, answering questions as they would come in. But I actually took a very random phone call one day where I was put in the hot seat and I was asked right away, like, hey, is there a version of this program, like a done with you version? And there wasn't. But on the call, live on the call, I'm like, absolutely there is. There's a DWI group coaching session where I made it up on the spot. I said it's 90 minutes. It's once a week. I work with your team. We go through the program. And then the last 30 minutes is, I tailor the material to be as relevant to their day-to-day as possible. And they asked me, what do you charge for something like this? And I was going through a lot of conferences and programs, a lot of Grant Cardone at the time. So in my head, I was like 10x, 10x, 10x. And I just said it. My program was listed for $297 online. So I just went $3,000 a seat. And their response was, "How's Monday?" And I was like, whoa. So
$5,000 a seat.
Yeah. And they wanted to opt in a full sales and marketing team of like 30 people.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, that was my catapult when I started, for sure.
Well, and I think that, and I jest about Drew jacking up the price, I think, but I think it's a testament to your entrepreneurial spirit. Like, that's where you're jumping and building the parachute on the way down. Like
100%.
I love that you said that and we're willing to take that risk. I think is it Richard Branson who's got some big quote about that? Like, you just say yes and then figure it out later.
Absolutely. Say yes and figure it out later. I had a golden opportunity. This is a major national brand that called and wanted to opt in all these people. And in my defense, if somebody is like, well, why would you just, 10x without thinking? All I could think of was the added work required, because every one of these videos, video modules that I had created were just answering like a entrepreneur's question or a solopreneur or a side gig. And some of them were very 101, where it's like, hey, well, who's the best, website host or CMS or CRM tool? And I'm answering those types of questions. And now all of a sudden a major brand is like, hey, coach our whole sales and marketing team. So I'm like, I need to go back and put a 201 or a 301 version on everything that I've already done. So that was a scramble and a very busy week. And I'm sure that I wasn't as great my first time around as, now I've done it 100 times. So it's a little more fluid. But that was the evolution of the consultancy into more of an online brand than a presence.
So what were some of the biggest challenges that you've had to overcome as you've built this up?
Believe it or not, my biggest initial problems were naysayers. Some of my closest friends and even family members, I had left an absolute dream job on the executive team at a global luxury hotel brand. And I was told that I was crazy. Going it alone was a mistake. I was told it would be too difficult. And the main reason it would flop is because people can just Google this material already, or they could YouTube other videos. Why do they want me specifically? But my answer is because I had done the work. I had done it. Experiential storytelling that I found sticks better with people. I've managed over $600 million in online ad spend in the past 20 years. I've had 8-figure annual budgets with major airline, automotive, retail. I'd mentioned hotel, and I've fallen flat on my face. And I have stories to tell about it, where I failed fast, I failed forward. Here's where I went wrong. Learn from me and don't repeat those mistakes.
That's powerful. I think, people see someone's success and they, there is no such thing as an overnight success, right? We're all failing forward.
I love that iceberg meme, I'll call it, the visual of the infographic, where it's like success is the little part everyone sees above water, and then the grind of of a lengthy career is the underwater part.
So what are some of the biggest wins or successes that you've gotten for your clients or customers?
I think, I believe in a rising tide initiative. A rising tide lifts all boats. Many clients that have opted into group coaching, they bring with them a varied understanding of digital marketing and e-commerce. Some were, respectfully speaking, a 3 out of 10, whereas others were more experienced and maybe an 8 out of 10. So I've found my success, or the trick, is not going the speed of a 3 out of 10 and having some people glaze over, but also not blasting off at an 8 out of 10 and making the others feel confused or like they're trying to drink from a fire hose. It's all about balance. And from my program feedback, I feel I've achieved that. My other win, and I wrote this down, it's only 2 words. It says Moneyball metric. So my other win I associate to finding a Moneyball metric. And what I mean by that is the movie Moneyball, brilliant movie. It highlights the Oakland A's, their historic run to the playoffs with a team budget that was a fraction of teams like the Red Sox or the Yankees. How? Because they broke down an otherwise complicated problem into a single measurable metric. They looked at how often any given player got on base, no more, no less. In my world, it's simple reductions in CPC's cost per click or CPA's cost per acquisition or conversion rates. If you're spending $10,000 a month on paid ads, and let's say for simple math, it's $1 a click. 10,000 spend is 10,000 visits. If your conversion rate is 2%, that's 200 conversions for $10,000. That's $50 cost per conversion. If I'm able to keep your budget at 10,000 but raise your conversion rate to 4%, that's now 400 conversions or $25 cost per conversion. And oftentimes it's those very little improvements in CPCs or conversion rates along that like linear purchase equation that results in more visits, more sales, reduced cost per sale, et cetera. Bunch of wins.
That is so true. And we've seen it within our own business. We've seen it with our clients. The huge impact on revenue when you can just little tweaks in your conversion rates, little tweaks in the opt-in rate, little tweaks and like all these little pieces across the way end up exponentially improving your revenue on the back end. And so Absolutely. I think people, obviously just get things started, right? Just get out there, start putting your stuff out there. Don't get stuck in the weeds when you're setting it up. But once you're set up, right, that's when you really have to look at your numbers. You have to, and then actually go through step by step. Okay, so are they clicking? Okay, great, they're clicking. Now are they opting in? Okay, now they're opting in. Are they opening the email? Or are they, joining the group? Or are they clicking to book a call? Like really analyzing all of those numbers and being able to just little tweaks along the way make a huge, huge difference in the success of your overall business. So I think that is so true and very powerful and something that people really need to embrace. You don't want people to get stuck in the weeds when they're just trying to get something out. However, once it's out, then let's look at the data and work to improve it. Because if you can do that, it's going to make a big difference in your business.
You're exactly right. And I think an important thing here is that nothing is static. Everything is dynamic. These numbers are volatile. They're up and down all the time. So it's very important. I actually had this conversation last week, I believe. Someone reached out to me because they said that their agency partner recommended that they just spend more money. And I was like, well, of course they did. And, right. With all respect to agencies, like I said, half of my career was agency side. I get it. But my question was looking at some of their other metrics. I'm like, you guys have like a 1.5% conversion rate. Why not focus on your own backyard first before you double down on budget? But they had this mentality that like $10,000 equals 10,000 visits. Therefore, $20,000 equals 20,000 visits. And they're forgetting the diminishing returns that happen as you scale on any paid ads campaign. 10,000 being 10,000 doesn't mean 20,000 is 20,000. Otherwise, you would just go, hey, I got $1 million. Let's throw $1 million into paid search. But it's a last touch channel for the most part. And there's a finite number of people that are physically sitting at hands-on keyboards searching for whatever it is that you do. So if you had a budget, sky's the limit, $100 million budget, you can't make more people sit down and search by pumping that money into paid search. Paid search captures volume. It doesn't create volume. So I've had to have these conversations with people to say, like, it's an equation and you nailed it on the head. Let's look at your opt-in. Once they opt in, let's look at what they're doing. Are they actually clicking? Are they doing the thing you want them to do? And then we'll work on that UX and that conversion rate. Then we'll talk budget. We'll pump up your numbers after we fix, let's fix your kitchen first.
Right. And it reminds me, so many people have jumped into the paid ads world, like on Facebook paid ads, and they don't have any system set up, or like it's a hack job. Yep. It's like super basic. And you're like, okay, like, please don't give paid ads a bad rap. Like, paid ads can be very profitable, but don't touch them yet. You are not ready for them yet. Let's get some really good systems in place and dialed in, and then we can test and tweak and grow with paid ads, with the knowledge that we're actually have the ability to convert into something like boosting a post or anything. Please, people, just don't do that. That's not to get you anywhere. So yeah, I 100% agree. So what kind of results have you seen, like implementing some of your own strategies and what you've done in your own business?
Yeah, I think I've had the benefit really of working with very large budgets in my career that helped me learn in a hurry. I was fortunate in the sense that I could take $100,000 and I could spend it in 48 hours because of the volume of traffic that we were getting. I'm serious. We used to spend like crazy money. I was spending easy spending over $1 million a month on some of these campaigns that we were doing, which is great. None of it was my money. None of it was my campaigns. I just manage it. However, the learnings are true. What I would learn in that level of spending, it just means that I would learn faster because, you need actionable data. You need enough of a sample size that it's relevant. It's statistically relevant. And sometimes I've seen people that run a campaign, like a very small budget campaign, and they'll make a decision on an A/B test with, 50 clicks. Yeah. And 50 clicks isn't really actionable enough to be, really certain that one is better than the other. It could be a time of day. It could be a day of week. It could be, who knows? It could be a shoulder season, anything. 50 is not big enough. 100 is not big enough. But if you are able to extend your A/B test over a month so that you're able to get like 500, now you have something that's a little more statistically relevant than 50. So my example is I learned very quickly that split testing and multivariate testing and creating an environment of testing is paramount to success online. And you kind of made that linear equation when we were talking about little tweaks, where we're saying, yeah, if you're driving people from an ad, and let's just take a look at the ad. You have a headline, you have a title, you have a description, you have a call to action, you have a destination URL. That's 5 things that you can test right out of the gate just with a paid ad. And then when they click and they land on the page, you can have, A versus B versus C landing pages. Now you're testing that. When they opt in and you've got them into a nurturing campaign, you start sending them different subject lines or different body text, your email. So all the way down, you just want to make sure you're not running just one static version of all of the above, because then you never know what worked and you never really know what didn't work or what might have sent them away. I've had people boast, hey, we've got like a 5% conversion rate. And I'm like, so you're turning 95% of people away? Like, how do we do better, test that, capture that, retarget that, get them back? So what I'm doing, I have just under maybe 600 people that have opted in at the $297 price point, the do-it-yourself price point. So granted, that's not necessarily something that'll make headlines or something to write home about. It sure keeps the lights on, but where I've seen the most success is that done with you group. Yeah. So what I was getting roughly, or I am getting roughly half a dozen organic opt-ins a week. And my program was costing me in paid ads. It was around a $60 cost per acquisition. So it was about a 5-to-1 return on a $297 purchase.
That's really nice.
Yeah, it was good. And honestly, it was achieved by the formula that I use. I'm happy to give it away. The formula that I use is A versus B versus C. Run it for a period where you get something statistically relevant, actionable data. And then when you have a clear winner, it means you also have a clear loser. So you can kill the loser, clone the winner, make a subtle tweak, and run it again. And if you're militant about a strategy like that, and you do it, let's say, every 30 days throughout the year, because the winner that worked in February might not be the winner that works in August. So you can't just go, oh yeah, we tested it. Remember we did that test 6 months ago and this was the creative that worked, or this was the copy that worked. That's the copy that worked then. If you have A versus B versus C on a 30-day cycle and you're always killing the loser and cloning the winner and tweaking something else, then you have your highest performing creative or copy in the ring all the time. It never goes away. And that's how, I've seen conversion rates go from 2 to 12% in 1 year by doing this A versus B versus C method.
So I love that you bring all of that up and that all of the testing along the way. I think there's a big fallacy of like set it and forget it in the digital marketing space.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole like passive income thing, that's how you go bankrupt. Like that's how if you just think you've got a marketing plan or something that's working right now and you just leave it alone and you don't continue to try to innovate or split test or push that, it's going to die. And then you're going to, you'll have a bad month and you're like, well, it was just a bad month. And then you'll keep going and suddenly you realize, no, something's broken. And now you're in trouble because you've let it go too long and you're digging yourself out of a hole versus staying on top of it because you're split testing all along and always keeping track of your numbers. I think if people take one thing from this conversation, that should be it. That you keep track of this stuff and keep testing and don't let yourself get lazy. Don't let yourself get too comfortable with this. Always have some stuff innovating, tweaking, growing, testing, because that's so important. So you said you spent $60 a week in Google ads, it sounded like maybe?
No. $60 was the cost per acquisition.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. So break down the what ad platform and what you were doing there.
So I was spending roughly $2,000 a month on my own acquisition program. The cost per acquisition cost per conversion, I should say, was around $60. My CPCs were varied anywhere from like $1 up to like $5. Usually I try to keep very close eyes on keywords and ad campaigns just because it's important to have that cadence. If you see tire kickers, be ruthless. Like just don't be like, oh, maybe it'll kick in or I don't really want to touch it. No, I go in with like extreme prejudice and I'm like, you're not performing, pause, you're gone, pause, you're gone. And like, absolutely. Because what that does is it reallocates that budget that was going over to a tire kicker. It reallocates that budget over to a performing ad or keyword or what have you. And again, to your point, if you have this cadence in place where you're constantly keeping a finger on the pulse, it's not just a matter of test it, set it, forget it. It's like at least once a month, have an afternoon in your calendar that goes in and takes a look at this performance. And then you can do month over month. I hate getting month over month campaigns because it's very subject to seasonality. It's very difficult to compare August to September because September, everyone is back in the office, back to school, work kicks in, vacation mode's over, summer's gone away now. But you see these month over month and I'm like, man, we're doing great. It's like, well, was September that great or was August that low? And it's really hard to tell with month over month. So if you keep a stringent cadence in place, you'll always be able to go in and compare year over year, this time last year, this time we did the last promotion or thing. And you'll be able to see with a genuine source of truth or a genuine ruler, yeah, we're up or we're down or we're sideways.
Okay, so Google Ads, that's not something that we've played with much, a little bit a while back, but nothing seriously in our business. So I'm curious on your Google Ads strategy when it comes to pushing towards your course. Like walk us through that funnel or what that ad was, or what terms you were targeting, and how did it push them through over to a sale?
I started broad. And the reason why I started broad, it actually correlates with the story I was mentioning about how do-it-yourself turned into done with you. I started broad and I was thinking like this course is going to be designed for, the entrepreneur, the solopreneur, the business of one, the side gig economy. Like, let's just help those people. And then it turned into a stepping stone where now it was more like practitioners or chiropractic, realtors, like those types of businesses. And then the done with you really came in with larger brands and agencies. So my strategy evolved as that happened to me, I'll say, because I wanted to make sure, fish where fish are. I'm not married to any one line of thought. And I think something that's very important is making data-driven decisions, and like opinions be damned. I've been wrong professionally 1,000 times in my career. I've been wrong. So much to the point that I won't even wager an opinion anymore. Somebody's like, hey, do you think this will do better in white or black? And I'm like, don't know, test it. let's run a test, and then I'll do whatever the data tells me. So the keywords that I were originally targeting may have been more around individual training, coaching, consultancy, digital marketing, and e-commerce at a very broad scale. And that just kind of got niched down over time to go more after corporate upskilling, agency, training, those types of keywords, which comes with its own set of cost per click, cost per acquisition, click-through rates, all the variants that you have to keep eyes on. But I think you just have to match what's happening in the real world to online and vice versa. Because if I didn't shift with the tide, I'd just be left behind.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's awesome. So 5 times ROAS on your Google ads, pushing to your lower ticket DIY course.
That's right.
Very cool. So are you sending them to a webinar? Are you sending them to what's the flow there from that?
So I created a VSL, and the VSL actually was designed to grow my mailing list. And what I had found is this VSL was actually getting a 10% conversion rate. So what I ended up doing, I priced the VSL to be net neutral. So let's say it was $1 a click and every 10th click was converting. Then I priced my VSL at $10 so that it would just pay for itself. So I have several free lead hooks in the water, several free lead webinars, VSLs, etc., that they don't cost me anything, but they also don't really make me anything. But it's another inroad that captures people into my mailing list, into my program. And then I was getting maybe 1 in every 10 people that opted into the program wanted to connect with me directly. And they would either send me an email and we would book some one-on-one coaching, or they were a larger client acting on behalf of a business or an agency acting on behalf of clients. And that's what's turned into like the real bread and butter of this endeavor.
Okay, so you have done beyond Google Ads. You've done some other strategies as well with like SEO and some sort of a custom video sort of thing.
Yeah, I did an interactive video, and the interactive video was very interesting because it was aggregated feedback that led me to do this, where I rented a studio and I hired a professional videographer, and I recorded like a choose your own adventure type of if this then that video. Like, it's a very sequential logic video. So I would come in and I would just say, hi, what is it that I can help you with? And then the video kind of pauses and I'm like suspended in animation, like waiting for these options come up on the screen, real live options. And you can click on SEO, for example, and then it jumps to that part, that segment where I'm like, SEO, awesome. What level do you identify currently as like your SEO knowledge? And then it comes up beginner, intermediate, advanced. And then let's say they go beginner. And I'm like, perfect. I have a lot of material to help beginners. If you're new to website optimization in general, consider this. If they selected advanced, I'm like, awesome. Let's get into like schema data and markup language and technical SEO and really nerd out. And this interactive video had, I think it was 64 different end results, different paths they could have chosen to get to the end. And I had my program cut up so many ways that if you said social media and you're a beginner, it landed you in the appropriate place. Whereas if you said paid search and you're an expert, it would take you to a different area. So that interactive video was very interesting. It converted quite well for me. It was responsible for a lot of opt-ins.
That's awesome. So do you have any of those numbers on what your conversion rates or anything was?
No, I don't know that I don't have the exact conversion numbers for that. My apologies, but I do know that it converted on par with any paid ad. Like, it converted maybe 4 or 5%. It wasn't brutal, but it wasn't like right home to mom about either. It wasn't like double digit conversion, but it wasn't dead in the water. So it was pretty standard.
Solid.
But what I found is people really went through this program because I can see, number of clicks. I can see how long they were, like the duration. And yeah, there was a lot of engagement, a lot of traction with it. The program is called Interactor with just the R at the end, Interact R. I'm
Okay.
not affiliated with them in any way, but if somebody is interested in checking it out, that's the program I used.
That's cool. So that was all organic. So you're doing blog posts to rank with SEO for certain terms that your target audience is looking for. And then on those blog posts, is this interactive video? Is that what I'm understanding?
Mostly landing pages versus, let's say, blog posts. And what I ended up doing is I used a script that would sub in certain keywords and phrases. So I know that, you want to have a certain percentage of the content to be unique, but I was using these as landing pages for paid ads as well. So what I would do is if somebody did a search for retail e-commerce, then they would land on my retail landing page where there's the interactive video, but then the content to support it was 100% retail oriented because I wanted that continuity from the click. A lot of times I've seen ad campaigns that are disjointed. If you search for a specific product or service and you click on it, you really don't want to drop somebody into like your product page. And now the onus is back on me to like scroll and find that exact product. You really want to deep link into the exact product or the exact service. So I took the majority of my keywords that were performing well, and I created landing pages verbatim with that keyword. So the content read as though it was custom written for that person.
Oh, wow. Okay. Gotcha. So landing pages, so they have to opt in to watch the video, or the video gets them to opt in?
The video is just right then and there. It's baked into the top of the page. There's no opt-in. The opt-in is at the end of the video where, this is where they would be sold on the respective, choose your adventure journey. And that's when they opt in.
Okay. Very cool. So the video essentially kind of worked as a VSL and like an interactive VSL.
That's right.
So I would say for sales wise, how many sales would that bring in for you? Like just the organic piece with this video, like per month or something?
It's probably responsible for about 100 probably in the last year. So the math on that is what, like 8 or 9 a month. It's not crazy, but it's just another inroad.
Yeah, exactly. And if I'll take an extra 8 sales a month organically that I don't have to pay for.
Yeah. And this video was done probably 18 months ago. It's also important. I should probably say this now. Don't date yourself and don't timestamp yourself, because if I said like, whoa, wasn't that COVID thing crazy? Then now I don't have evergreen content that I can use for like, a couple more years. And I was actually guilty of, I did one thing. So I try to take my own advice, but I did one thing where e-commerce had grown more in 2022 than it had because of the COVID kind of spike and everybody kind of went online more in 12 months than it did the previous 10 years. And I made that comment just as a statistical relevance thing, but I did it in a video and I ended up having to go back because I was like, oh, damn, I just told everybody it's 2022. So now in 2024, I can't really have a 2022 hero VSL on a page. So I just a little tidbit there. Learn from what I did and don't date yourself.
Yes, that's like, and you'll see, if you have Christmas lights or Christmas ornaments or trees in your background,
Exactly.
calendars, talking about huge, world events like that, it will date your stuff. And, some seasonal things on social media, especially, that's totally normal and appropriate.
Right.
When you're creating evergreen content that you want to work for you for years, try to avoid that. It'll benefit you and you don't have to redo your stuff.
Exactly.
No, absolutely. So, what are your plans for scaling or growing from here? How are you going to take this to the next level?
So I think I really, really try to be value led as best as I can. And on the topic of SEO, what I've found is organic does best when it's quality, value led. It's not written for bots or crawlers. It's as authoritative and trustworthy as possible. So I've been scaling a lot on my socials using that kind of methodology. The other thing I recently did is I switched my platforms. I was on everything was Samcart. I switched over to Thinkific, and what I did for my existing people, I just went out with like, hey, free consultation if you have any questions on the difference in platforms or how you access something. Like I won't charge for that. And I went with a barn burner, $59 for my program from $297 to grow my mailing list quicker. So, because as I mentioned, program purchases were never the bread and butter of the business, just the first point of entry. And then the value-led nurturing campaign, literally giving away my best material and what's working for me. Industry news, freebies, downloads, checklists, all the standard stuff. Building that rapport and relationship so that if and when the time comes for additional help, I'm the first person that comes to mind.
So what would be like what's the number one piece of advice that you would give to anyone who wants to start a business like this?
Firstly, don't listen to naysayers. The thing that I said happened to me. Don't listen to naysayers. If you've done your research and you believe that you have something of value to offer the marketplace from a unique perspective, go for it. Do your homework on the need in the market and look for search intent. Carve out an underserved niche where you can be profitable. Just because if everyone listened to naysayers, nearly every market is saturated. We would never have new websites, software, AI tools, even exercise programs. After that, I suggest storytelling, having a legitimate and honest experience to fall back on when someone asks why you feel a certain way or why you said a certain thing has been invaluable for me personally. And I have a lot of formulas that are grounded in experience and storytelling, like the split testing, like the A versus B versus C, like how I manage large budgets. These are all, I fall back on real world experience, which I've found has been, tenfold better than you just trying to nerd out on a whiteboard and, say A equals B, therefore whatever. That's how you make people glaze over really quickly. But real world experience rooted in a quick story, people are like, oh, I get it.
So what's the best way for people to connect with you? Where can they find you online?
I love LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn every day. So my name is Mike Hoyles on LinkedIn. And actually it's my name on every other major social platform as well, just / Mike Hoyles, or go to ecommercetraining.live. You'll have a contact form you can fill out, or you can sign up for a newsletter. I try to post my most asked questions regularly, so I'm offering as much value as I can on my site and on my socials.
Awesome. So do you have any freebies for our audience today?
I have a list of freebies. I've been using Stan Store. I've found a lot of success and traction on social media, specifically TikTok with that one. So it's stan.store / e-commerce training. And there is a list of digital tools, resources. There are some freebies and checklists, a step-by-step guide to like e-commerce and conversion rate optimization. And there's a link to my program in there as well.
Awesome. Well, we will have the link for that in the description and the show notes for this episode. Thank you so much for being with us, Mike. We really appreciate you.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You've been listening to the Digital Trailblazer podcast. For show notes and information about today's guest, head to digitaltrailblazer.com. Now, if you love this episode, if you got some value, make sure you leave us a review and subscribe. And be sure to share this episode with anyone you know who could use help to build their business. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.